Dean here. Start a 2+ hours NBA DFS conversation. An 8-gamer going down tonight with the Chief, with Will, who's super excited about his. It's not his, but gambling wise, his Duke Blue Devils, or specifically their quarterback, beating my UCF Knights. I hope this feels good. Will, you get excited? You were just celebrating because I guess your quarterback. Yeah,
listen,
there you go.
My God, look, fellas, you don't understand, man. That's the so Dean, in the prop world, this is the only play I had from this game. Like the only play. I only took Riley Leonard over fantasy points. Woo! Boy, I'm feeling good.
You might have just broke a speaker there with that Ric Flair you're pulling out there.
Nick Flair. Boy, I'm excited, Dean. I needed that one. Whew, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, as a UCF fan, did you go? Did you win it again? What is that? Is the prop shop going nuts? Are they excited over there?
Yeah, the prop shop's excited, man. It's the joint sweat, brother. It's the joint sweat.
Everybody
listen, we needed every fantasy point from Riley Leonard to get this thing. As you guys can tell, I like Dean. But I also did not need UCF to win this game. Duke wins the game. Riley Leonard hits fantasy points. Look, Dean, your team will be fine. Gus Malzahn is there. You don't care about this bowl game anyway. What you want is a national championship. And what I want is for my props to hit. Woo! All
Congratulations to yourself and the prop shop. I'm sure they're all super excited as well. Yeah, I mean, look, you can't win the national championship every single season. We won it 4 or 5 years ago. It's confirmed. They had a parade and everything. It was at Disney World. There was a banner. You can't say it didn't happen. The Military Bowl, I think that's what it was called. This one in Maryland, against Duke. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but all things. They're moving to the Big 12, which is so weird. That doesn't. All the conference stuff is nonsense now with college football. It's not worth getting into.
But Dean, they should though. They're going to get more money there. Big 12 losing. Yeah, and they're losing some players, and it's also going to help their recruiting. Like they'll be playing because you get a chance to play bigger teams, then the recruits want to come. I mean, UCF is in Florida. Florida's a great place to be during football season, so I think they're going to be fine. Gus Malzahn, as long as Gus Malzahn does his job recruiting, if they just get the good Florida recruits, they'll be fine. So if they can convince some of these 4 and 5 stars to not go to Florida State or not go to Florida, they're going to be fine. Or USF, or Florida Atlantic, or that's all they're going to have to do. Which they'll get. It's really Florida State and Florida is going to be their problem. So they got to recruit really well in Georgia. They got to recruit probably really well in Alabama, Louisiana, South Carolina, North Carolina. If they can recruit really well in those states,
Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. He's correct. Or Miami, for that matter.
Miami's fallen so hard, man. They used to be, I don't know how old people are in the chat. They used to be like the greatest team for 10 years, 15 years with Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson in the 90s. They ran football. Them and Notre Dame, it was this phenomenal rivalry. It's so sad what's happening to the Hurricanes if you're a Hurricane fan. But yeah, like you said, there's a plethora of talent in the state of Florida. Florida, Texas, and California. That's where your 3 best recruiting spots are. I think Georgia's pretty good too. You mentioned Georgia.
Oh yeah, Georgia's on the list.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not a college football enthusiast like I used to be. I used to love it, but it is kind of wild what's happened to Florida State, what's happened to Miami. I don't know where all the talent's going or what's going on, but they've done a terrible job over the last 15, 20 years as far as their reputation just falling. So, and even Florida, for that matter. They used to, all 3 of them were in the top 25, basically always. All right. We're talking basketball tonight. 8-gamer, 8-game slate, tons of body parts to monitor. 8 games, 8 teams on the back half of a back-to-back. Orlando, the Lakers, Washington, Atlanta, Phoenix, Denver, Sacramento. Denver and Sacramento running it back. They played last night. They're doubling down and doing it again tonight. We're doing the dance once again with Sabonis. He's currently questionable, but if he couldn't go last night with a broken thumb on his hand, whatever it was, and Golden State, who, just basically punting this game, we'll talk about it. Not full clarity, but we have some clarity as far as Golden State missing some key players. Well, there's a lot of value on the slate, or a lot of value to come as well. Your general overviews, anything you think is worth talking about, anything you want to feature before we're going to dive in and break it down game by game?
I think, we've got some teams that, and the news is starting to come out, like sitting guys, Bradley Beal's out, and the Pelicans guys, Zion's coming back. The Warriors, the way it's looking right now, God, they're probably going to they may sit Draymond and DiVincenzo. They got listed as questionable late.
I assume they said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but it's not official, Dean, so I won't say, but that's my assumption that questionable late. Drew Holiday got ruled out earlier today, and then still we've got Sabonis, who's got this thumb fracture, and he could sit. I'm not saying he will. I'm saying he could. So that's what I'm saying. It's just there's some weird spots here, and so for me, it's an interesting slate for that reason. There's some other spots that don't have a lot of interest that I like as well, for what it's worth. But these injury spots I think are unique. And Bradley Beal being out, I definitely think is going to put us on some of these Washington guys.
Yeah, that just broke about 10, 15 minutes ago. I just gave a refresh on the old lineup HQ, and it looks like they've updated that game amongst other stuff too. And there's a lot of stuff like in the air, like we said. I guess we're still projecting – like we're projecting Sabonis in, we're projecting LeBron in. LeBron hasn't played a back-to-back in at least a month, I want to say. Just a lot of stuff up in the air. Revenge game for LeBron against Miami. Booker's going to be out for like a month or so, I think. It was a big number. He's going to be out for a while. The Miami Heat, like legit injuries or illness as far as Bam, he's questionable. Butler's questionable with his ankle. We'll see. Stay tuned on that. The back-to-back with Jamal Murray. No travel, of course. They stayed in the same city, but he's questionable. Obviously, he's coming back this year from a pretty severe leg injury. I wouldn't be surprised if Trae Young sits. Trae Young got hurt last night, very, very late. The game was already settled. They were down like 15-20 with 2 minutes to go. Did not come back, but he was limping pretty good. So would not be surprised if he doesn't go. And all of a sudden, Atlanta opens up to some degree. Of course, Clint Capella, the Clint commander, is not available already. So much to talk about as we go dive in. And you mentioned Zion coming back, which makes New Orleans basically worthless because everybody else has been priced up in his absence. Now that he's back, he's going to eat all that usage back. And maybe you can play Zion, I guess, maybe, possibly, but everybody else does not seem terribly interesting. And then it's Giannis season, right? Giannis is going to be the big spend that hits all the apples because he's the last man standing. There's no Drew Holiday. There's no Chris Middleton. He's been I don't want to say disappointing, but like a tick disappointing by his ridiculously amazing standards. But, tonight looks really, really prime for him to annihilate the Chicago Bulls. All right. Anything else of note before we fully dive in, or shall we just jump in and, it'll all come up organically?
Yeah, man. Let's let this thing come up organically. I'm excited. Do you want to split it again? This is kind of a short slate, and I take Fanduel, you take Draftkings. It doesn't matter. I'm prepared for both, but just one.
Yeah, that works perfectly. I'll talk mostly DK. If I jump over, I'll specify. If you feel free to jump over to DK if you have a note. There are some things that are a little bit different, but I'm happy to focus mostly on DK, and you can focus mostly on Fanduel. Very first game on the slate, 8-gamer. It's Detroit. The Pistons are home versus Orlando. Earlier in the day, the Pistons were hitting all sorts of optimals. I hate playing Pistons. I like ignoring them if I can. There is some value here, though, that's worth noting, and it's a good matchup. Two of these teams not very good defensively. The Magic are a 1-point favorite on the road in Detroit. 229 is the total. As far as what we're monitoring, who's in, who's out in this game, Orlando is without Okeke and Suggs. There was some speculation that Wendell Carter might sit on the back-to-back. I've seen nothing on that, just speculation. As far as we know, he is expected to play on the back-to-back as of right now. Detroit, it's Cunningham who's going to be out the entire season, but Marvin Bagley being ill opened stuff up a little bit, and they are kind of cheap. So that's why you're seeing some Pistons, and Livers is still out too. I like to ignore these kind of games, but again, I think there's some goodness. I don't know if there's like elite plays, but let's start with the Detroit side. The absence of Bagley. Durant's going to get some more run. He's a center. He's not somebody that's going to put like 25 points in the bucket, but awesome rebounder. Your thoughts as far as the Pistons?
I think they're just okay. Jaden Ivey has been playing a lot better here recently. Usage is there at 5,900. I mean, I don't think he puts up 40 fantasy points tonight. I feel like the closest he gets is maybe around 35. He's been playing great. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of fantasy production, I don't see him getting there. And Orlando's actually been playing okay as well. Bogdanovich is 6K. I think he's priced appropriately, so I don't want to really worry about him. Killian Hayes, he's 6K. He's been playing great, but at 6K, I think I'm okay there as well. Jalen Duren has been fine. Like, I think everybody's just priced appropriately, Dean, and it makes me very uninterested in them for tournaments. If Killian Hayes 5K, we'd be having a much different discussion. If Jaden Ivey was 5,200, this is all FanDuel pricing, 5,500 even, we'd be having a different discussion. If Bogdanovich was 5,500, we would be having a different discussion. Jalen Duren 5,400, maybe we're having a different discussion. But because of where everyone is priced up right now, I think I'm just going to fade these guys.
Detroit, the second worst team in the league defensively. Pittsburgh. Why would I say Pittsburgh? Orlando is the sixth worst defense. So the two really attackable spots that's worth noting. If you look at the defense versus archetype matchup tool here at RotoGrinders, a lot of good matchups. If you're going to call Mo Wagner a versatile big, it's the absolute best matchup in basketball. Versatile bigs against Detroit. Same deal with Bull. We're giving him a versatile big tag. Cole Anthony combo guards and Fultz combo guards, third best matchup in basketball for combo guards. And the other side in this game, you mentioned Killian Hayes, 5'6" on DK. I think he's very much in play at 5'6". Absolute best matchup in basketball if you're calling Killian Hayes a distributor. If you're giving him amongst all the distributors, all those the tag distributor, it's the best matchup we've seen so far this season. Good matchup for Beef Stew. Isaiah Stewart, post bigs, top 5 matchup. Jaden Ivey, top 10 matchup for combo guards. Just good matchups across the board, and they're all really cheap too. You're not really spending a lot of money. Ben Caro found himself in foul trouble last night, one of his worst games of the season. I think he bounces back as well. You got to spend some money. I'm fine with Bogdanovich. Ownership-wise on DK, the biggest guy popping because of salary is Alec Burks. I don't love that. 21% Alec Burks. I think he's fine, but are you excited to play Alec Burks? And Detroit has no incentive to play a ton of minutes to Alec Burks, right? He's not going to be on this team when they're theoretically good. Durant getting 18%, Bogdanovich getting 18%, Killian Hayes getting 19%, again, 5'6" on DK. Beef Stew, power forward eligibility, which is useful, not just center and center only, at 13%. A lot of good fillers, a lot of good filler plays in this game, from what I can tell. So I don't know if I'm just throwing it away. The tricky part is, of course, you got to commit to this stuff at 7 o'clock. It's an 8-game slate. There are 2 games after 8, I believe. Let me confirm that. Minnesota, New Orleans, 8 o'clock. Yeah, Milwaukee, Chicago, 8 o'clock. And then Utah, Golden State, 10, which we don't know if we're going to have the clarity on Draymond and DiVincenzo. If those guys both sit. I mean, I think kind of, sort of, somewhat already is Kuminga season, maybe. But it'll be fully Kuminga season if Draymond doesn't go. He still may start. And as of right now, we're looking at 11 possible bodies, could be down to 9. And amongst those 11 are like Ryan Rollins and Patrick Baldwin, Anthony Lamb. Not a lot going on there. It's going to be a pool party as well. I'm rambling, but I just thought it was worth noting all that stuff. The other game that's late is Denver, Sacramento, another game where we may not have full clarity on Sabonis' availability or Jamal Murray's availability. So the point I'm making is I don't know how much stuff I want to get married to at 7 o'clock. If better pieces fall, information at 7 o'clock, 7:05, 7:30, 7:40 tells me that there's better plays at 10, right? So that's the predicament that I'm in. I didn't mean to ramble, but I just thought that was worth saying and worth getting out there. Your favorite Piston in this game is who?
On FanDuel, none. On DraftKings, I think DraftKings is where I think you want to play the Pistons tonight. I mean, like I said, Hayes is 5,600. Duren, 5,100 is a great price. Like this is where I think you want to play the Pistons. If I'm on DK, it's probably Jalen Duren.
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, again, the tricky part with him, he's center and center only on DK. Better price on DK than FanDuel, like 5.8 over there. That's tough to get in on for me. I mentioned Burks. FanDuel really can't play him at 4.8. I guess you can, but I wouldn't. But 3.8 more playable on DK. Anything else of note? Nobody a fantasy point rate player in Detroit. There's a lot of guys that are close to Bogdanovich 0.98, and he's certainly fine. But again, it's just mostly filler stuff. That's all sort of like if you're running 150, they're all in your pool. I'm making 4 lineups. I don't know if I have any, but last man in. It's a bunch of last men in for me on the Detroit side. And I think Banchero is really interesting in tournaments, especially if he's going to be 6% at 8.1K on DK. That seems like a really attackable spot. Again, Detroit, worst defense in basketball. I guess the Spurs still exist. So second worst defense. And again, feels like a bounce back spot. He wasn't worked too hard last night because of foul trouble. I like him a good bit, but otherwise, I don't have much else. If you guys are in chat, feel free to throw out the names you want to hear us talk about. If we miss somebody, if you want some elaboration, it's an interactive show. That's why you'll hit the like button and subscribe and turn on those notifications and do all the things and smash all the buttons. Will, you have anything else to say as far as Orlando with Pistons?
Negative.
All right, let's move on. The other game at 7 o'clock. Ooh, lots of body parts that are missing. 221 is the total. The Suns are in Washington. The Suns are 2-point favorites. They are playing on the back half of back-to-back. They're traveling as well. Chris Paul, strangely, is not on the injury report. He hurt his shin last night. He said he'd be fine, and as of right now, he's playing, so I guess it's a non-issue. But, just kind of sort of, we'll know, 7 o'clock, but he had an ouchie last night. That's why his minutes were somewhat limited. Landry Shamet, also they got blown out. They did the blowing out, right? They won big. Doesn't matter. It was a blowout nonetheless. That's why we're going to talk about the Dwayne Washington situation. Let us know in chat. Shout out to those that played Dwayne Washington. I'm curious what you did, Will, if you played Dwayne Washington. That was more of a DK play where he was still minimum 3K. And, he was projected for like 18 fantasy points in like 17 minutes. It wasn't like this amazing play, but due to injuries and blowout and just being awesome, he put up like a 40-burger last night. And I just was like, nah, Wave. I know the optimal's giving me Dwayne Washington, but I'm good. Thanks, but no thanks. Sometimes I know better or don't. But he ran really, really good last night. I wonder if people are going back to him in a similar situation. Shamet's out, Payne's out, Bismack Biyombo's got that knee. He's questionable. No, Cam Johnson, obviously, and Booker, again, out for a while. Did you play last night specifically on DK or no?
No DK for me last night at all.
Let me know, chat, if you guys played Dwayne. Let's have the Dwayne Washington good play, bad play debate. According to, yeah, I mean, look, if you want, I don't know if you should. You certainly didn't expect what he did last night. You were playing him. That's not what you're hoping for. You're hoping for like the 20-ish fantasy points, and I did not get it. Unfortunately, still salvaged to some degree, despite no Luka, who I think put up the biggest fantasy score of our existence. Was that the biggest? Like 110 on DK? That's insane. I thought I was excited about Embiid's like 85 or whatever it was. Let's see. Matt played him. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, are people going to go back to him? Do not expect that again. Of course, if Chris Paul is somehow out of nowhere rolled out, then it would fully be Washington season. But I just looked at the optimizer and I was like, I bumped his projection down. I'm like, I'm going to make it 16. And then like anything I had to do to get him out of things I was running. And eventually, I was not getting my lineup, so he was smashing. We saw Jock Landale draw the start last night. He's center and center only, which is a little bit troublesome, of course. Centers are a commodity. You can only roster 2 on DK, 1 on Fanduel. Is Landale a forward on Fanduel? Power forward?
Center only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How much is it?
No fun. Not fun for Jock Landale on FanDuel.
Yeah, like bigs in general against Washington. Of course, Beal out on the other side. I neglected to mention that. The absence of Bradley Beal is kind of a big deal. Porzingis and Kuzma are going to rise. It's worth noting they have plenty of bodies to fill the absence of Beal. They have a lot of dudes on that roster. So, the minutes are going to be terribly squeezed. But just, usage will shuffle to Porzingis and Kuzma against Phoenix. What side do you want to start on? You want to start on Phoenix or Washington?
Let's start on Phoenix, where On Fanduel, I like Phoenix, don't love Phoenix. Like you've got 8 at 8K. And I think he's okay, but he's not. It's not that price is. I'm not thrilled about it. I'd much rather play Porzingis at 9K, who I think has more ceiling, generally speaking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Landale center only. You got Torrey Craig. I don't care about Torrey Craig at 5,400. Mikal Bridges at 6,100. That's the sneaky play to me, Dean. Mikal Bridges at 6,100 with a random 45-point fantasy game out of nowhere, and nobody plays him today. And I mean, we've got him at around 50%. It looks like, but I think he's the guy where he's either probably going to get you 25 to 28 fantasy points or 38 to 45. And I don't know which range he's going to fall in tonight. We've got him projected for around 30. I think he's the GPP target for Phoenix. Chris Paul is okay, but I don't want to play Chris Paul either.
I mean, theoretically, Paul should be good, right? The absence of Booker,
he just doesn't score enough real points anymore. That's
the other part of it is like, again, he's maybe he's not hurt at all. I know he got hurt last night. Maybe he's perfectly fine. I think they called it a contusion, which is general. That just means like bruise, right? But no Shamet, no pain. It is a back-to-back. Chris Paul's old. It's a long season. They're already without Booker. It's not a game in their conference. Like, it's why would they push him that hard is kind of my question. So I'm sort of making both arguments, right? The spot is great, right? That's kind of what we do sometimes. The spot is great because, the usage, he should run the show, but what are we projecting for Chris Paul minutes? Like 33, right? He's old. Was he 37, 38, 39? He's up there. Still really good for his age, obviously, but, they care about the playoffs. They don't care about game 30 against the Wizards on a random Wednesday night. Dwayne Washington, by the way, is getting 5% ownership. We're projecting 15 minutes and 17 fantasy points. Like the situation's not changed. I think Chris Paul and Washington have basically not played together all season long. So do we chop those minutes? Let's see. We gave Washington 15 and Paul 33. Yeah, that makes sense. It totals up to 48. I don't believe they crossed over together, but again, these situations also are kind of extreme as well. Without Campaign, without Shamet, without Booker, they might kind of sort of have to some degree. And you could also make the argument, if you want, you can tell yourself the story that Washington earned himself some more minutes last night, right? Like these things, theoretically, rotations are fluid to some degree. If you want to tell that story, by all means, go for it. I don't know if it's true.
I mean, if Chris Paul was sitting, we'd be having a different conversation. But Chris Paul tries to play when he can actually play. And I'm not thrilled about firing up Dwayne Washington in his 18 minutes, maybe.
I wonder if people are going to chase it, though, because those that missed it are going to feel like they missed out. And those that had him are like, yeah, that guy was great. I'm playing him again. I just wonder how that's going to
I'll just miss out.
Yeah. I mean, if you're expecting the same result, like you shouldn't. But like you said, if for some reason we get Paul out, then it's like full on Dwayne Washington season. Like that's it. That's just how it's going to go. I'm running it. I'm running the old core IQ. I'm seeing if they played any minutes. They played 2.1 minutes together this season. It might have been last night they played 2.1 minutes, to be honest. I'm not sure. I should have checked. All right. How about the Washington side? You sort of touched on Porzingis, full 9K on DK, but Beal being absent, the ceiling gets higher. We're only projecting 7% ownership. Rui Hachimura, we're giving him 23 minutes, and therefore we subbed him a value at 3.9K. Still coming back from injury. Otherwise, there's not much going on. Like Kuzma, again, some usage, but he's also pretty fully priced at 8.4. Therefore, not getting a ton of ownership, but theoretically his ceiling is higher. I saw somebody in chat talking about DeAndre Ayton. On DK, I think he's a better play than Fanduel. I think Fanduel is 8K, 7.4 on DK, almost 19% ownership over there. You mentioned Bridges, and you're talking about the possibility of him getting 25 or 45. That's like how many stocks does he get, right? Because Bridges can get 2, or you can get 8. And on Fanduel, you get 3 points per, and that's just how that works.
And the thing is, he probably scores the real points. I know we're kind of going back to Bridges here, backtracking, but I do think it's important to talk about. He's probably going to score in today's game, the 15 to 20 real points. It's going to be somewhere in that range. Like, seriously. He's probably scoring 15 to 20 real points. He's probably going to get 4 or 5 rebounds, and he probably picks up 3 to 4 assists. So, let's just say, Dean, I'm going to give him 16 points. Yeah, just for kicks and giggles. So 16 points, and then let's give him 5 rebounds. That's going to give him 6 extra fantasy points. And then let's give him – I'm going to be meager and give him 3 assists, Dean, which is going to give him 4.5 fantasy points. That's 26.5. Now, as I said, and I'm really kind of dialing it back here, he could pick up 7 rebounds and 5 assists like it's possible. But I'm trying to keep it close to realistic to where he would probably be usually. Now, Dean, let's say we give him 12 stops. 12 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals. That's not unreasonable for him, right? So that's 38.5, and I'm going to give him 2 turnovers. 36.5 fantasy points. But he's got upside for like 45-ish if he scores 20 real points and picks up an extra assist and 2 more rebounds. You get what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what you're dealing with Mikal Bridges. So I just want to point that out. Even at 36.5, that's good for his price on FanDuel at 6,100. It's not earth-shattering, but like he could still be in a winning lineup if you got nuts everywhere else in your bill. So I want to point that out. With Washington, we've got Denny Avdia at 5,200 on FanDuel. I don't really want to get involved with that. I think the only person I actually want to play is Kristaps Porzingis, and I'm just going to let it ride from there.
400 in the chat reminding us, do not forget to hit the like to help my job. Thank you for looking out for me. Father TJ is on his way into the studio, and we need to get to 100 likes before he gets in. Yeah, TJ will be very upset if you don't have 100 likes by the time he shows up. And I don't know if we're there just yet. Probably not. But he's not going to be here for like an hour or so. 50 minutes. I believe it's TJ and Keith, I want to say, as well as Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. Yeah, hit those like buttons so TJ doesn't, I don't feel the wrath of TJ. He gets very upset, very disappointed, very quickly. It's not my fault. I'm not responsible for hitting it. It's your fault for not doing it. And then I look bad. And then, I'm not pointing fingers or anything, but, one of us is responsible for that. Summarize the Phoenix-Washington game. Anything else here of notes or just, I think we're moving on.
Yeah, let's move on.
B-Shot wants to know what my favorite bedtime story is to tell. Is that because I mentioned, tell yourself a story about Washington? Yeah, I don't really have I'm not of the age for that. You have kids you read, or no, your kids are older than, they're not getting bedtime stories now, right? I don't think so. Would you have a go-to?
Yeah, they could. One is, my youngest is 6.
Okay. Is that of age for bedtime stories? I don't know.
Sorry. My youngest is 5.
Okay.
So, yeah. They still want a story every now and again. Like, it's not like a perfect requirement, but they'll gladly accept one.
Do you wing it or you use like a book or something?
I've done both. So I've actually physically read books. They've got books. And sometimes, they've requested a story before, like, hey, let me hear this one or that one. And I've also made up stories. And believe it or not, those are some of the funniest ones. I've actually got a video where I was telling a story about, I don't know, an elephant or a rhinoceros or something. And my daughter, she thought, and she was probably, she may have been, so this is my middle daughter. She may have been 5 at that time. She's 8 now. And I've got it on video. She thought it was the funniest thing in the world. She's just like hardcore laughing, like can't get herself together type laughing for a little kid. It was so funny. But yeah, I've done both. And both are effective depending on what they're looking for.
Princess Bride was a bedtime story? I didn't know that. Yeah. All right. Good Night Moon is apparently, I don't know. This is not my wheelhouse. Yeah. I've never read a bedtime story. I don't believe I have. No, I don't think so. All right. We shall move on. Let's power on through. Just got news, by the way. The Miami Heat players, some of them will be playing basketball tonight. There will be a jersey. In those jerseys, you're going to see Gabe Vincent. At least he's available to play some ball tonight. as well as Caleb Martin is available, and Bam Adebayo is available. What about Jimmy Butler? Do we got Jimmy Butler news? Starting lineup for Orlando: Fultz, Franz Wagner. Oh, the brothers Wagner, Mo and Franz are in. Banchero and Bull. All right. Next game on the docket it's Brooklyn. It's Atlanta. 233.5 is the total. Big boy number. Brooklyn 7-point favorite here against the Hawks. We don't know about Trae Young. That's a big deal. He's currently questionable. Capella is out. Hunter also questionable with an ankle. Bogdanovich questionable because injury management, coming back from his injuries. It's a back-to-back for Atlanta, like it's a back-to-back for 8 teams on this slate. I don't know what we can say here, but if Trae Young doesn't go, DeJounte Murray is going to elevate to a really, really strong play. It's possible we get – Collins was awesome last night, and maybe they're showcasing him as well. There's rumors out there that he might get traded.
But Dean, but we knew this, Dean. Like, we saw the minutes jump the game before, right? So it shouldn't have been a surprise. His price was suppressed. He played 20 minutes game 1, 21 minutes game 2. He played 29 against Detroit. So we should have been on Collins anyway against Indiana. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, we saw the minutes jump that we needed to see to support us plugging him in our lineups at a very suppressed price.
He also benefited from Okongwu getting in foul trouble, which helped him, and he was playing at the 5.
And that's probably going to happen again tonight.
Yeah, so talk about that because this is one thing I did well last night. I did not buy into the Okongwu chalk. We talked about it yesterday. Like, he seemed too well owned for tournaments for a guy that doesn't have a big usage, who can get in foul trouble.
I quit buying him once we saw him get north of 5K. I think we talked about it. I don't know if it was you on the show with me or not, but there's no reason to ever play Okongwu at I think that night he was pushing 60, 70%. It was we're not doing that. And that wasn't last night, but you get what I'm saying, D. Like, there's good chalk, there's bad chalk. Okongwu north of 50% is not good chalk to me.
I agree. Tonight, he's 5'9" on FanDuel, 5'2" on DK. DK a little bit better as far as the asking price. Of course, FanDuel will give you more points for those blocks, but you can only roster one. I'm guessing you're not really on the 5.9K Okongwu on FanDuel. Like, it's fine for cash. That's what you do.
X button. Like, get him out of your pool. He's 25% at 5,900. X button.
All right, let's see. We got
so Dean, can I explain? Can I say something else here? I just want to kind of talk about ownership. So Okongwu, and listen to this, Dean. That this doesn't make any sense, but it's what's going to happen tonight. Okongwu is 5,900, and we've got him at projected around 25% ownership, and that's on FanDuel. Jalen Duren is 5,800. Projected for 29, and we've got 29 fantasy points, and we've got him projected for 7%. Do you see how this skews the opposite? It makes no sense when they're both probably the same play. I'll use one of your terms, Dean. In a vacuum, Jalen Duren and Okongwu are about the same player, but one's getting 25 and one's getting 7. Just X Okongwu out of your pool and play Jalen Duren if you want to take a shot on a guy in that range. I'm just saying that for tournaments so people get an idea of this is how we take these tournaments down. You look, you say, well, this doesn't make sense. Just scratch Okongwu out. You can plug in another guy of a similar play at much lower ownership. And at the end of the night, you're looking like, why did I just play this guy? Exactly. This is how you take it. All right, Dean, go ahead.
No, that's a good call. Okongwu 0.99 fantasy points rated on FanDuel. Again, a little bit better over there than he is on DK. DK 0.96. But Durant's 0.92 on FanDuel. I would also add Bobby Portis to the conversation as far as good pivots away. I think Portis is going to get some ownership on FanDuel. And
he's at 10 right now, and I probably just need to let me refresh, Dean. But he should get more than that with Holiday out.
Yeah, Holiday, Middleton, Chicago revenge game. And he's a vengeful guy, right? I think. Well, you hope. Who did he punch in the face? Neil Mirotic many years ago. I think that's who it was. He stuck him in practice. All right. I don't know why I remember that, but that was him? Wasn't it Portis? Yes, sure, maybe. Don't want to make false accusations. But we have a Brooklyn, Atlanta. there's a lot of if-then stuff here. If Young goes, are you in on Young? I mean, I'm probably not playing Trae Young. I'm not playing a ton of lineup.
I don't think I'm playing him with the questionable tag at 10K. Don't want to risk that tonight. And I don't think we'll need Trae Young to take down a tournament, especially with DeJounte back, Collins playing better, like Bogdanovich back. I don't think Trae Young gets there. And Trae Young's kind of been hurt for half the season anyway. I mean, he's just been nicked up, so I don't think there's any reason to risk it on FanDuel with him at 10K.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments on DK. Like, of course, you can always play Trae Young. You can always get 40 points in the bucket at a Trae Young. These things can happen. It's a small, ownership. I'm guessing it's going to be a small ownership, but we'll see. What do we have right now on him? We got 6%. It might change. It wouldn't change so much. If Bogdanovich and Hunter both sit, he might get a little more usage thrown his way, but the usage won't really be a problem. But 3-point variance, yada yada. If I don't think we have an if then, but if Bogdanovich and Hunter both sits, I'm trying to think who would be the benefactors. Griffin possibly would get some extra run. I don't think you want to mess with Aaron Holiday or just any of the Holidays. I don't think you want to mess with those guys. Like, they're probably going to get more run. Like, they would have to, but they're still probably worthless. Yeah, your thoughts if you want to play the if then game, if Bogdanovich and Hunter both sits. I mean, Murray would play more minutes, but Murray, I think, is mostly contingent upon Young being out. If he sits out, I love Murray as a big spend. You tell me. Jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start with that. If Trae Young is out, then on FanDuel, where DeJounte Murray is 8,400, he's going to become a really strong play. And I think the same thing for John Collins as well, even at 6,300. I think he'll be relied upon to score a little bit more. And then Bogdanovich at 62, I'd be curious to see if he starts and they just move DeJounte to point guard, because obviously DeJounte can play point guard. That was his position at with the Spurs, and since he's coming to the league. So I'd be interested to see how they work this. If Trae is in, I'm not really interested in hardly anyone from Atlanta, even though John Collins had a big game. The Brooklyn Nets have really started to play pretty well here. And so the game should be competitive, but I wouldn't trust John Collins as much in this matchup where he may see some Kevin Durant. We've seen John Collins get in foul trouble as well. So that's just kind of my philosophy there. And then on the Brooklyn side, like, man, Kyrie's 8,600. It's okay. I don't love it. Kevin Durant's 10-4. You're looking for him to put up 60 fantasy points. I don't see that tonight. So it's a high-paced game. I think if you play this game, you try to get some little mini stacks going, Dean, like a 2v1, not a 2v1 or 2-1, 2-1-2-2, something like that. I don't think you go like 3-2 deep on this game, or a 1-1-2-1, I think feels like the proper way to play it. But that's how I would approach it. So I'm not thrilled about anyone unless Trae sits. If he's in, then because of the game environment, I think you can take some pieces, and it would be the main guys for me.
Just taking a peek at chat. What do you guys think about Trey Murphy? Without even looking, I'm sure he's overpriced because everybody's back, with the exception of Herb Jones, especially Zion. So, well, Ingram's still out too, but I assume Trey Murphy's like not a good play tonight, but we haven't got there just yet. Let's see. How do you approach that with stars, Will? Your approach you're just talking about as far as, yeah, like, Big Hurt's talking about taking out Luka last night for Joker. Obviously, that's not a 1v1 utility spot on DK, different positions. You can certainly play that game. I assume he's talking about like swapping out one star for another star, the other star being a much distinctly lower owned player, kind of we're talking about with a Kungwu. A lot of it's sort of case dependent, right? And overall lineup construction, if your lineup has a ton of chalk in it, you can play a really, really chalky lineup around, the one superstar that's 5% owned. I did that last night with Joel Embiid. It was like 5% owned, and the rest of my lineup was really chalky, and it was pretty good. It didn't look as good when Luka did his thing, but it was what salvaged my night.
Well, so here's the thing. and I think people have heard this before. If you're going to DPP, it's going to take some skill and a little bit of luck. Like those are the facts, folks. And so swapping Luka for Jokic is almost splitting hairs because they do have similar upside. The question is, which one has the upside on the night that you play them? Now, and here's where my DFS game kind of shifted a little bit over time. I used to be, almost extremely a single entry guy. Now, the difference is I was playing higher stakes, right, Dina? So that's another thing that can really change things. You know, if you're playing, you know, a $1,000 entry with 40 people, well, for 40 entries, that's a lot different than playing a $7 entry with 80,000 entries, you know. So
you don't go nearly as far off the reservation as far, you know, people are super, super tight. They'll play, it's chalk city on those 40 man, is what you're talking about.
Yeah. Or close enough to it, right? Like, you know, close enough. I would take some chances in those, of course. But my point is this. You're not going to see as much variance there. So the 2 or 3 people that play Luka are going to take it down. And then, you know, you just come back tomorrow and hit the reset button. And if you're a person that, let's say you're in the what's that contest called on DK, Dean, where you can play $1 and play $100 and you can play like 150 entries or 50 cents. You know what I'm talking about?
I can't play the dollar contest anymore on DK. They kicked me out.
No. But I'm saying, do you know what it's called? But everybody knows what I'm talking about. I can't remember what it's called. But my point is, when you start getting into 150 lineups, what's that, Dean?
Mini Max, according to the chat. That sounds right.
Mini Max, yes. Thank you. The Mini Max, that's it. And I love that DK came up with this contest because you can get really good at multi-entering in lineup HQ and not have to pay $1,500, $2,000 to max enter. If it's the dollar one, it's 150. If it's the 50-cent one, it's $75, and you can get really good at mass multi-entry very quickly just by playing those contests. Let me get back on target here for my point because I do want to answer the question.
Just to say, Fanduel has like those nickel contests, if I'm not mistaken. If you
want
to get
reps, they do.
Get reps over there. If you're allowed to play those, that's a great place to get reps in. But go ahead.
Yeah, if you're on FanDuel, the nickel contest, and they do have a fair amount of entries. Back on topic here. Here's my rule of thumb for the big stars. I don't ever really fade the big stars if I'm running 150. I'm always going to get some exposure. And here's why. Here's why I tell you this. It's the same thing like last night with Luka, right? Bad spot against New York. That's what it feels like. But the stars or the superstars are the superstars. And so last night, Luka may have been projected at 5%. Here's my rule of thumb. I don't have to get him at 20%. I can play Luke at 10 to 15% on that type of slate. And if he goes off, I'm feeling fantastic because I just have exposure. I've probably locked in another value play or got heavy exposure to someone else. That's a really good point per dollar play that may be talky or may not be talky. But I don't really like fading the superstar, the Giannis's, the Lukas, the Anthony Davises that we saw for like a month, and then now he's back on the show. Those guys, Embiid, Jokic, I don't want to fade those guys in any slate, right? I want to get some exposure because most of the time, those guys are always low owned unless it's a night like tonight where in Milwaukee half the team is out and everybody knows, okay, Giannis is going to go off because he's going to have to do more for the team to win. So that's kind of my approach to that version of it now. And then I know we got to go, Dean. I'll probably be my last point. Thank you for this opportunity because I don't know. I love talking strategy. If you're in 3-entry max type stuff, because this is where it could get tricky. My rule of thumb is this: how many of the chalk, and Dean has already mentioned the ball on it, how many of the chalk cheat plays do you have? Right? How many of those do you have? Okay, now who has the most ownership at the top in terms of Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Luka? I'm just going to use those four. Okay, so Jokic has the most ownership. Just get rid of him. Do you get what I'm saying? And take Luka or take Giannis or take Embiid. That's how you do it in a 3-entry max, because they're all going to have about the same relative ceiling in a normal sense. And then the one day that they go off the reservation and go, I mean, we've seen these guys go for 100 fantasy points already this season. You may have them that day in a bad spot. I've done this with Kawhi when he was healthy. I've done this with Kevin Durant when he was healthy back in the day. I've done it with Russell Westbrook back in the day. Some of you may not even know Russ was a 13K player and nobody plays him that night. You just play him and he goes off. He goes for 70 and everybody's like, dang it, why don't we just play Russell Westbrook every night? So anyway, that's my explanation, Dean. Hopefully that one. Maybe we need to do another Rotonomics free course or something where we talk through this type of stuff. Devin or Steve, run that up to the big dogs, and we'll go from there. Thank you, everybody. I will be quiet, and we'll get back on track.
Wasn't that Noto? Noto and Jim did a lot of those back in the day.
Yeah.
I think they're still available somewhere on the site. I feel like they are. Don't hold me to it.
Roto Academy, Dean.
Yeah. They're evergreen, so it's worth listening
and
to.
And Roto Academy is free, by the way.
It's free these days?
Well, It used to be. I may be wrong. But anyway. Sorry.
I don't know either. Somebody asked in the chat about TJ Warren.
DeAndre Hunter is out. My goodness. Here we go.
We're probably going to get the rest if that just came out. I'm guessing there's follow-up questions. What about the other guys that are questionable? Hunter being out. Okay, so Trae Young is starting. Oh, no, never mind. Trae Young, Bogdanovich, Jalen Johnson, all game-time decisions. Thank you, Atlanta, for nothing. Bismack Biyombo is available for Phoenix for what it's worth. Not a lot, but, And Butler, of course, he is still – we asked about Jimmy before. He is a game timer. Nothing's changed with Jimmy. That game is at, 7:30? Yeah, 7:30. Chat's asking about TJ Warren. He's been very good. Giving him 20 minutes. He's been a fantasy point-minute player on the season. Speaking of blow-up games out of nowhere, he's had that before. They're kind of hard to predict. I think one of them, the most recent one, was in the absence of Joe Harris and Seth Curry. Seth Curry available tonight. Harris not available. So they're pretty deep as far as Brooklyn. Just worth mentioning that the Kyrie price on DK, I think, is pretty good. 29% ownership. It's a pretty big number, but 8.4 is solid. The absence of Hunter is interesting. Now I want to see the rest because we really can see a thin Atlanta team. If Young doesn't go and Hunter is already out and Bogdanovich, who knows, are they going to pull a half measures? Like, why not? Just go full measures and roll them all out. Stay tuned back-to-back for Atlanta. We might see, DeJounte Murray season for sure. And Collins could become really interesting. He's actually got a really good price on DK, which he was, he was popular last night. He benefited to some degree with he was in foul trouble. I believe that's what kind of gave him some benefit. And also he ended up fouling out himself. Pretty quick whistle for Atlanta last night. But 5.3K seems a little cheap. And it's nice that he's not center only. He's power forward / center. Let's move on. Maybe we'll go back and see if anything changes drastically in the absence of Hunter. I don't think anything drastic, but there might be something noteworthy. But we're moving on, right? I think so. Yes?
Yeah.
You know what? We're moving on to another situation that has very little clarity or, minimal clarity, or it's hazy at best. The Lakers, they're back in town. Lakers versus the Miami Heat. LeBron James back-to-back. He hasn't played a back-to-back in a long time, so he is questionable with an ankle. My guess he doesn't play, but that's just me guessing. Schroeder is available. Reeves is available. Of course, Anthony Davis being out. The top two guys will be out, so we might have the Russell Westbrook show probably still coming off the bench, but we'll run the show when he comes in. For Miami, Bam is in, Caleb's in, Vincent is in, Dedmon, who cares, he's out, and Jimmy is questionable, but Miami has enough now where I don't think anybody is really interesting. Even if Butler's out, it's not terribly interesting, but you can play Bam, you can play Tyler Hero. I guess the most interesting piece in this game, if LeBron sits, is probably Westbrook. Thomas Bryant certainly in play, but the price has been bumped up a bit. I saw somebody in chat talking about Pat Bev man, like what is Pat Bev's ceiling? Like I just can't imagine. I know he's 4K on DK, 5 on FanDuel, wouldn't get there, but what are you begging for at 4K on DK? What's his biggest score this year? 22? 23? 26, 27? Yeah, you might go to get 26, 27. What do you have as far as Lakers, Miami? Best we can do as of right now with minimal dicey information.
Yeah, keep in mind, folks, I'm covering FanDuel, and so Dennis Schroeder's 5,300. I think if LeBron is out, that's a good price for him. He's a guy that can put up 30 plus, and with LeBron out, so I don't hate that. Probably wouldn't be playing any Pat Bev at 5K. Lonnie Walker at 5,800, maybe, but I doubt it. Thomas Bryant at 57, don't hate that. Probably have some Thomas Bryant. And then Russell Westbrook is 8K, and I wouldn't mind getting some Russ. But all in all, I wouldn't be playing too many Lakers. As we head to Miami, you've got Kyle Lowry at 64, Tyler Hero at 79, Martin, Butler, Bam Adebayo. I don't know if I'd really be interested in any of these guys. Miami's very deep when everybody's healthy, and they're semi-deep when half these guys are out. So
Butler in, by the way.
Butler in. I'm not playing anyone from Miami tonight.
Yeah.
And it's mainly because of the prices. So, like, Butler's 97, Bam's 88, Hero's 79, Kyle Lowry's 64. Like, that's really what it is. If Butler was 8,500, Bam 7,900.
Sure.
Like, we'd be having a totally different discussion. But the pricing has priced them out of my interest.
Butler in Nikola Jovic. Jovic is questionable with his back. Doesn't matter. Just wanted to note that. As far as projected ownership for Miami, the only one getting really anything on Miami on DK is Bam at 8%. And I would be kind of surprised he even gets that high. He's 8.7. Sure, he's fine, but there's no premium plays on the Miami side with everybody healthy, everybody good to go. That matters. LeBron, for what it's worth, 10% owned if he plays. I think he doesn't play, but again, just by speculation. Pat Bev is getting 9% ownership at 4K for 20 fantasy point projection, and I think Westbrook would spike up to some degree at 7.5. What's his FanDuel price over there? 8K on FanDuel. Did you like Westbrook? If I know you just said it, but I was
if LeBron is out, I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay. Not much else here, right? This game's pretty uninteresting. It's more interesting if LeBron doesn't play. And I think playing LeBron is interesting too, because if he goes, I don't believe people are playing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're moving on.
I mean, if LeBron is in, he's just an okay play. He's 11-4. He's got to probably get 60 to really feel good about it. He's not 12K, but I still, at that price, I want 60. You know what I mean, Dean? I want 60 plus, really.
Well, it's the Luka approach. I'm not saying he's Luka, but it's like he's a star that's not going to be owned.
No, absolutely. The difference is LeBron James's rebounding has really taken, in my opinion, a decline in terms of consistency. In so much that I take LeBron James under rebound props on a daily basis and hit them pretty much every day. He'll have an 11 rebound game. He'll have a 9 rebound game, but he's going to hover around 4 to 6 this season, the way it's looking. And so I'm not interested. And I know he's gone through a stretch where it was like 8, 11, 7, 7, 8, 8, 17. I get that, but that's not most of the season. So at any rate, I get the Luka approach. I think you can, if you're running 150, we just talked about this, get you some exposure. He's going to be low owned. You don't have to play him at 20%. You can get 10%. It's fine.
All right. I was just wondering maybe he gets a boost with Davis being out, but maybe it's still not enough. All right. Minnesota, New Orleans, 234 total. We love that, right? Big boy total. New Orleans, 120 team total. That's a big number as well. 6-7 point favorite here, but Zion being back, Trey Murphy coming back from illness being available, Dyson Daniels is available. Yes, Brandon Ingram's out with his toe, but a lot of prices have adjusted in his absence. A lot of prices have been bumped up in the absence of Zion. Now Zion's going to come back and eat all that usage. So, I cannot imagine playing CJ McCollum for 9.1K. Can he get there? I suppose, but that is the scenic route if there ever was one. There's no chance I'm playing CJ McCollum with Zion back. Somebody asked about Trey Murphy. Again, they're really, they they're a deep team, New Orleans. So I'm not chasing Murphy. Although what he does is hit threes, and I believe Minnesota gives up the most made 3-pointers. So theoretically, it's a good matchup. But even still, I don't think I'm playing Trey Murphy. Let me just confirm that. There he is. Made 3-pointers. Opponent made 3-pointers. Minnesota is number 1 in the league as far as yielding them, 14.2 per game. Utah still the least for what it's worth. They get destroyed inside. This is a weird game, and that like theoretically it should be good, but when you consider the prices and everything, I don't like anybody in New Orleans. You like anybody in New Orleans?
Yeah. And I'm going to give you FanDuel pricing. Not really, Dean. CJ's 8-7 with Zion coming back. Trey Murphy 52, Najee 53. Zion 10-1 coming off of not playing in 9 days, I think. Jonas Valanciunas 6,700, and then a host of others on the bench that will get some minutes, like Larry Nance, Alvarado, Dyson Daniels, maybe a little bit of Devontae Graham, etc. I don't want to play anyone from the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, ownership reflects that as well. Let's see. Murphy's getting less than 5%. That's the most popular play at 5K. And again, it is a good Murphy spot. So whatever. If you want him in your pool, by all means, have at it. Enjoy yourself. Minnesota, as far as who's in and who's in Minnesota, Kyle Anderson, slow-mo's dealing in the back, so he's questionable. Everybody else, same deal. Cat has that calf. He's going to be out for a while. McLaughlin's been out for a while. Gobert get benched last game. Embarrassing. Naz Reid has been just straight out playing him. They've been playing them together to some degree, but with the exception of like the last 30 seconds or so, Gobert was benched most of the entire fourth quarter. I was watching that game against Miami, where Miami was small. They just said, Miami said, screw it. They had their big dude out there, the guy, Orlando.
Man, doesn't matter. Wish I could have taken some unders on him for that one.
Yeah, well, it could have gone the other way, though, where Gobert could have like housed, but like he didn't really step up. And, it's it's not a good deal. Minnesota, their trade's not looking great, obviously. Early results are looking to favor the Utah side for sure. He is pretty cheap, I'll give you that. He's 7-3 on DK, and theoretically he can put up like a 17-17 in like 5-block kind of game. But I don't love Minnesota. Naz Reid, those minutes are volatile. He's really, really good. You never really know how many minutes they're going to let him play alongside of Gobert. He might close and Gobert not close, especially if Nance is closing on the other side. If it's Nance versus Naz Reid, is it going to be Nance versus Gobert? Kind of weird, right? It can happen, but there's an opening, I think, for Naz Reid to close over Gobert, or both closing is happening as well, possibly, maybe. Talk to me about Minnesota. Again, this game is just, I don't have a good feel for it. I hope it's quiet. That's where I'm at.
I don't hate D'Angelo at 7,100. If Kyle Anderson plays at 55, he's probably okay. All in all, I don't really want to play anyone. Anthony Edwards at 9,100 could be a thing. Maybe you get a sprinkle of him in your tournament bills, but he's projected for 13%. So I'm actually more inclined to fade him at that price, even though he's been playing really well. So there you have it. That's my take on Minnesota.
All right, we are getting Lakers news. It looks like Dennis Schroeder available, Austin Reeves available. No LeBron just yet. Let's see if we get that news. I hit refresh one more time. Maybe it'll come in. Nope, not just yet. But I imagine that news is imminent, or we just get game time decision. Yep, he remains questionable. That's what we're getting. Thanks for nothing. All right, we're moving on. Next game on the docket. 3 games left. The other 8 o'clock game, then we'll talk about the 2 10 o'clock games. Double-pronged hammer at night. Milwaukee, the Bucks, 231 is the total versus the Bulls. They are still 2-point favorites, despite they're without 2 of their top 3 players. No Drew Holiday, no Chris Middleton. It's going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo season. He's going to smash. He's going to do whatever he wants. The Bulls scuffling these days. Questionable is Alex Caruso. He's got a head. He's got a concussion. Javonte Green's got a knee. He's questionable. DJJ. Derek Jones Jr. is officially doubtful. Give me the argument against rostering Giannis Antetokounmpo. I guess it's just ownership, right? Because this looks like a spot where he's just going to have all the usage in the world. And he's just going to smash, and that's that.
Yeah, I won't be providing you with anything against playing Giannis Antetokounmpo tonight on FanDuel at 11.7K. I'll be encouraging folks to play Giannis, even at 36% ownership. We talked about the fact that all chalk isn't created equal.
Yeah.
And so when you look at Giannis at 11.7 in a spot with two of their best players out, although Chris Middleton's been out most of the year. So you know what I mean? Like, Giannis has been playing fine without him. In a spot against the Bulls, where typically, Dean, the Bulls and Bucks game is very competitive. If you've looked at it over the past few years with DeRozan and Levine and Vucevic there over the past 2 seasons, they've been very competitive games. I like Giannis here at 11.7. Absolutely, in my opinion, the top play on the slate. And so if I'm playing on FanDuel tonight, what I'm probably doing is hitting the lock button on Giannis and building everything around him. That's my aggressive approach in tournaments, because I think Giannis has the ultimate upside here tonight.
How much Milwaukee is too much Milwaukee? Because there's going to be some cheapies that pop up as well. In addition to Giannis, Javon Carter, especially on DK, where he's 3.5. We're looking at 32% ownership. We're projecting a conservative just 27 minutes, pumping up 23 fantasy points. Just that's a really solid cheapie. Pat Connaughton is 4K. Allen is 3.9. All those guys look usable. Bobby Portis, more so on FanDuel. I think he's an excellent tournament play on DK, where he's 6'4" and seeing 1% ownership for Bobby Portis. If you're running a bunch of lineups on DK, I implore you to get more than 1%. Don't get like 30, but get more than 1. On FanDuel, though, I think he's going to be kind of chalky, where he's 1K less. How many bucks is too many bucks? I'm running optimals, and I want to see how many are popping up.
I've been refreshing. He's only projected for 6%, which I still think that's wrong.
Take the over. I think the over on that. Smash the over on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
$3 in the very first DK optimal lineup I ran, 4 in the second one. It's Bucks and Pistons. Good Lord, what can go wrong? We don't know about Trae Young yet. That obviously can change things. LeBron can change things. Stay tuned. We have an hour until lock goes, and even after that, things will change. But just note this stuff. I have $3 or $4 per lineup. Can we play 4? I don't know if I'm playing 4. I think I got to play 3 though. You play 4?
Yeah. No, I don't think I get to 4. I think it's 3, and it's probably Giannis. Bob on FanDuel. Let me clarify. On FanDuel, it's probably Giannis, Bobby Portis, or the linchpins, if you will, or the pillars. Let's call it pillars. If I was going to play, and then honestly, I mix and match Carter, Allen, Connaughton, Lopez. That's probably what I do. I just mix those guys in, and I do like Brook Lopez tonight, even at 6,500. He's been playing really well. It feels a little bit expensive, but he's got 40 to 50. 40, let's call it 40-point upside here in this spot. I like him a lot.
LeBron in. Cool. Good for LeBron. All right. That's good to see. LeBron James. I see Brett in chat saying he's warming up. He's going to play. And there you go. I just saw the official word come across Twitter. LeBron's going to give it a go down in South Beach. He's taking his talents at South Beach tonight at FTX Arena. Can we change that name at some point? All right. How about Chicago? The Bulls are playing basketball. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I meant to ask, your favorite fringe play amongst Grayson Allen. I think Javon Carter is the best play on DK when you consider salary. Is it who starts amongst those two, Connaughton and Allen? We're projecting both to start for what? Portis to come off the bench. Curious to see how that goes down. You have a preference amongst Allen and Connaughton? You might have just given it, and I was reading, and I apologize.
I did.
Okay. So
I'm going to explain it. So what I was saying about
you busted
what I was saying about Allen Connaughton was Giannis and Bobby Portis were the pillars, and then I just mixed the match in those other players. So it wasn't like a hard. I'm playing Grayson Allen. I'm playing Pat Connaughton. It was more of I will play these guys, but they'll be mix-ins, not staples.
Yeah. Nobody's going to play Brolo. That's just sort of how that goes. Vuk is a tough matchup on the other side. I don't really like to mess with Brolo. DeRozan's fine as a run back, probably the best run back, I think. What's your preference amongst DeRozan, Vuk, and Levine? I think it's between DeRozan and Levine, probably DeRozan, but I'm curious to get your take.
FanDuel where Levine is 7.5K and DeRozan is 8.6K. I think I side with Levine with no Drew Holiday in. DeRozan's been playing great. Don't get me wrong, but I'll just take the discount on Levine here. And DeRozan's probably going to have a really good game. The correct answer may, in fact, just be play Nikola Vucevic tonight and let him load up on Milwaukee in a depleted lineup.
Okay, I'm sorry. You caught me looking at what was trending on Twitter, and I'm thrown off. It's disputed that Hooters may or may not be going out of business, but Hooters is saying that that's not true. But there is allegations that they may be rebranding. All right, this is important stuff that the people want to know for sure. Anything else here, or moving on? Yeah. I think we're done with Milwaukee and Chicago. Yes, it's an important game.
Yeah, I mean. I guess it's important, Dean.
I mean, the decision point for Giannis right there out the gate is a huge one.
I don't think that's a decision. I think you play Giannis and you figure it out. What's that?
I'm on Team Giannis. Yeah, but it'd be interesting if I'm not sure how the salary is going to work. If Young is out, then all of a sudden they Murray a little bit cheaper. I guess you can play them both. I'm just trying to think of lineup construction and ways to get away from them, but it feels pretty 11-5 against Chicago. This is probably, I feel like it's a TV game. I don't know if it is, but it feels like it should be. I'm not sure. In national TV, it's typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe. Well, Friday as well, ESPN, right? I don't know. I got the package, so.
Yeah.
We're moving on, right? Doubleheader. That is no, it's not a national TV. Tonight, it's NBA TV. LeBron at Miami, returning to South Beach, and the back half is Denver versus Sacramento. Big Hurt wants to know Giannis or Joker on FanDuel. That's a more than a 1v1. That has to be more than a 1v1.
Listen, my answer is play them both and figure it out.
Well, what? It's
I'm
a single
serious.
entry
What's that?
It's a single entry contest. You can't do that unless you have a +1.
If Jamal Murray sits and Aaron Gordon's been questionable, you could have two superstars that are going to get all the work tonight. I would be trying to find a way to get them both in there.
Producer Steve has dropped a poll in chat. Better restaurant, Hooters or Twin Peaks? I've never been to Twin Peaks or heard of Twin Peaks, but I can imagine it's in the Hooters realm just by the name and context clues. I heard of the TV show Twin Peaks years ago. I think there was a movie as well, too. There was also a reboot in Showtime. Haven't seen any of it. I hear it's weird. Are you aware of Twin Peaks Restaurant? Never heard of it.
I am not.
Okay. Maybe it's a regional thing.
Never heard of it.
And Texas is the first place. Right around the corner, Fort Lauderdale, not too far from me. I guess I am missing out. All right. We're derailing the show. We have 2 games left until we hand this off to the Crunch Time crew. It's TJ. I bet they don't have Twin Peaks in Saskatchewan, Canada. I'm guessing they don't. As well as, I think it's Keith Eyster will be jumping in. All right. Let's talk about the night games. Doubleheader going down tonight. 2 10 o'clock games, both with, you're waiting for it? Uncertainty, of course. Why not? Utah, the Jazz, they're at Golden State. 232 is the total. Golden State currently a 5-point dog at home versus Utah. What if I told you in the beginning of the year that Golden State would be a 5-point dog versus the Utah Jazz at home? You would have a lot of questions. And a lot of the Golden State Warriors obviously are not playing this evening. Some may be added to that list. Draymond's got a foot, so he's questionable. Dante DiVincenzo's got a knee, so he's questionable. He put up 30 fantasy points last night with 0 points in the bucket. Shout out to Dante. Wiggins is still out. Klay Thompson cannot play in a back-to-back. He's not playing basketball. Of course, Steph not playing as well. 11 current bodies for Golden State. Theoretically, could get knocked down to 9. Pool party on layaway. Feels really, really good about Kuminga. Kevon Looney plays every single game, so I assume he's going to play this game. He's got a game streak going of 150. Good for him. I believe it's the highest currently in basketball. Utah is fully healthy. Utah, because Kelly Olynyk Kelly O is back. Meaning nobody in the Jazz really pops. Conley is really cheap. I'll give you that on TK. He's 4.9. But the question is always, what is Mike Conley's ceiling in the year 2022? Not very high. 41 points his last game versus Spurs. Well, that was the Spurs. You got to grade that one on a curve. Start with the Jazz.
Tonight is Golden State. They're probably actually a worse defensive team.
Well, no, nobody's worse than the Spurs. But you're without all these guys, without Draymond. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, sure. Fair enough. Talking about the Jazz.
No, but in all seriousness, though, it's Lauri Markkanen is very expensive tonight. But I mean, if you're ever going to play him, so this is the spot to kind of take some of these guys that might be slightly overpriced mid-range plays, but they're in the spot of a lifetime. I think tonight's a Lauri Markkanen night for sure. So especially if Draymond sits, nobody's going to slow this brother down, and I mean no one. So at 200, he's someone I like. Jordan Clarkson, I mean, he's been in this 7K range most of the year now because of his role with the team. So I don't think you have to play him. I don't even think you have to play Mike Conley, even though this is an upside spot. But it feels like this is Lauri's team, so I think he's a guy that you can absolutely play. And he would probably be one of the main cogs. I know, Colin Sexton is just coming back. And so his minutes, he got up 22 minutes against the Spurs. Maybe he gets up to, 25 minutes tonight or something like that. But I think this is a Lauri Markkanen spot and a Lauri Markkanen spot mostly. If you want to sprinkle in some of these guys from Utah, by all means, Dean, go ahead. But feels like Lauri Markkanen night to me.
Yeah, minutes will be squeezed to some degree on the Utah side. We're rejecting 11 players playing. Again, they're fully healthy, and nobody getting any less than 15. Gay gets 15, Nah gets 16, Sexton 20, and none of that's useful for us. That's all useless. That's just minutes being thrown out in the garbage because we're not playing those guys, I don't think. Of course, they can topple that and still, have great variance in their favor, and they're usable in theory. Kelly O coming back, mucks up the front court, Vanderbilt and Kessler. I agree that the best play is probably Markkanen. Golden State, we're playing a lot of if-then stuff. The crew will tackle. I don't know if we get information or clarity as far as DiVincenzo and Green until it's after the 8 o'clock block. Now we have 2 games late. Nice to have a second game for pivots. Nice to have options. But my lean is they don't play, but what the hell do I know? I'm just guessing. Why would you give – they gave him body parts too. It was they gave Dante a leg and Draymond an arm or something. I can't remember what it was specifically. No, Draymond's got a foot and Dante, he's got a knee. Maybe they just sit him, but we'll see. But right now, Poole, all the usage in the world. Kuminga looks like a really strong play. He closed last night. They'll probably put him on Markkanen. I'm guessing they use him as one of the better defenders, although that's by default because who's left? Moody's not known to be a great defender as far as I know. I like Kuminga as of right now. It could get better if we lose Draymond. He's a good holding place guy, if nothing else. But it's hard to say. Are you prioritizing Poole? Is Poole a better play than DeJounte Murray if Trae Young doesn't go? Because probably not. I'm guessing no. But not certain.
For $1,000 discount almost, I'd say yes. Poole at 7,600 on Fanduel, where DeJounte's at the 84. I'd say Jordan Poole's a better play at home. The Warriors have played much better at home, even with limited bodies. It's on the road is where they really have these massive struggles. I think I'd say Poole is a better play. And here's why, Dean. Which DeJounte would get there multiple ways. Poole probably goes for 30-plus real points in this spot. And now you just got to hope do the peripherals show up as well. I think for the price discount, I take Poole with no Curry, with who's already been out, no Clay, and then if Draymond sits too, my goodness. Which Draymond isn't really involved in the scoring too much, but it's the other little things that he's involved in. So him just being out of the way will probably allow Poole to just pick up more assists and things like that. You know what I mean? Draymond has to be trying to dish out assists on the fast break. So, that's how I feel about it.
I see Smokey in chat saying, is D. Washington a lock? No, by all means, he's not a lock. There is a ton of fragility to him. If for some reason Chris Paul doesn't play, sure, that is a lock. But right now, there's a chance he plays 15 minutes and puts up 15 fantasy points, and that's that. Do not chase what happened last night. Last night, he had a ton of variance go in his favor. The fact that it was a blowout, the fact that he was super efficient, the fact that Chris Paul had an ouchie. So all those things combined led him to absolutely smashing. Not that you need him to put up 40 fantasy points, but just understand that that's unlikely to be repeated. That doesn't mean you can't play him, but understand that. And Poole, like you said, it's very important to note, he's a full 1K less on Fanduel at 7.6 as opposed to 8.6 on DK, which makes that a little bit more of a pause. But like you said, he will be chucking. The usage will for sure be there. The last game on the docket, another game we really don't know what to say because it's a rematch. We're playing it again. Running it back. Denver won this game, I believe, by 7 last night. We saw Alex Len draw the start. We talked about the possibility of Alex Len starting and disappearing. He pulled a magic trick. Don't be surprised that happens once again tonight. Now for him to start, we would need Sabonis to be out again.
He pulled a magic trick. Dean, this may be your greatest statement on Grinders Live. Folks, I don't want to diminish how incredible of a statement this was. We talked about Alex Len starting and disappearing. Folks, he pulled a magic trick.
He studied under Copperfield and David Blaine, I believe. So the experts.
Oh, my goodness. This goes in the record books, Dean. I mean, tip of the cap. Incredible, sir. Incredible.
And he might start again. And the whole Sabonis thing is, why can't they just make a ruling on this guy? It's the same injury. It's a broken thumb, I believe, on his non-shooting hand.
Yeah.
I don't know. At what point is this a song and dance we're going to do every single time that the Kings are on the slate? Either he can play with it or he can't. It's not getting any better. It's the same situation as it was last night. Can you deal with the pain? I'm not sure. Also, I'm a little bit concerned, non-shooting hand, I suppose, but still, I want my basketball players to have 2 fully functional hands. So maybe I'm asking too much, but that's what I want, especially if I'm paying 5 figures. If I'm paying 10.4K for Sabonis, I want both his hands in top working shape. Jokic on the other side, kind of disappointed, right? And we did see, by the way, mentioned when Len did pull that magic trick, it was Trey Lyles and Rashawn Holmes. That was the combination, mostly at the 5, that's most interesting. Also, we should note that Jamal Murray is questionable for Denver, and he's got a history of injuries. And that's the reason why he's questionable. Don't be surprised if he does not play tonight. Aaron Gordon's got a shoulder. He hurt his shoulder. He dunked too hard. I don't know if you saw that dunk the other night. It was incredible.
I saw
it. Former slam dunk champion. Should be how many times he ever won? I don't know.
But he didn't win it. He should have won it.
I think he won once before that, though, didn't he? Didn't he win legit one time? He did get robbed one year. I can't remember who robbed him.
I think they gave it to Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
The year he caught the ball off the mascot spinning around, that's the year he should have won. Hands down, he should have won that year. And I think they gave it to Zach LaVine in the dunk off after he took off from half court or something the free throw line or something like that. But clearly Aaron Gordon he earned that dunk. That was probably one of the best dunk contests in our era outside of Vince Carter and Jason Richardson days. Outside of that, the Vince Carter and that one I think are the top 2 from our era. Like I said, Jason Richardson was good. The year that what's his name, Dwight Howard was in there was okay. Blake, when the year he jumped over the car, it was just still meager. But that was a show that we saw in that one between LaVine and Aaron Gordon. And I may just need to go watch that one again tonight. That was incredible.
Speaking of slam dunk contest contestants, Hoosiers Hang Banner says Connaughton should have had some friends and families tonight in attendance. He did play at Notre Dame. Connaughton never won the dunk contest, but he's been a participant at least once, if I remember correctly. Any interest in Lyles? Yeah, I think so. And you need all this stuff matters for Sabonis being out. Sabonis has to be out for Lyles to become a thing. I believe Lyles would have closed. Rashawn Holmes, I trust him. I believe in him more by default, if nothing else, than Alex Len. Power rank these 3: Collins, Okongwu, or Duran. That is a tough threesome to power rank. Oof. I think it's Collins ahead of Okongwu. Yeah, you tell me. Collins, Okongwu, or Duran for Detroit. Rank those 3.
Collins, Okongwu, or Duran on DraftKings or FanDuel?
They did
Which
say
one?
DK.
DraftKings or FanDuel?
DK, yeah.
DK? Probably Duran, Collins, Okongwu for me.
Okay. I think I have Collins 1, but I think that the big story is we have Okongwu last, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And no surprise, as expected, Trae Young ruled out. So DeJounte Murray season is on layaway, or a blowout's on layaway. That can happen too. But yeah, he's going to have all the opportunity. Murray's going to take all the shots. And I'm curious what we get with Bogdanovich. If he's out as well, we're going to get multiple Atlanta pieces that are popping. I assume Murray news, not Murray news. I assume the Bogdanovich news is imminent. The Crunch Time crew is on layaway. They'll be coming in shortly. You got Kevin Roth. You got TJ. Do we have enough likes to appease TJ? I don't know. Hit that like button if you don't mind. Kindly hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to do that as well. Turn on those notifications. You guys aren't Domantas Sabonis. You're not dealing with a broken thumb. You have 5 appendages, give or take. I assume. I'm rounding up. Phalanges. There you go. Yes. Maybe they had like a sawing accident in home ec in grade 7. I said grade 7. That's how they say it in Canada. It's kind of funny. You ever grade 7? That's what the Canadians say. It's the subtle differences. I believe Keith is also coming as well too. We'll bring him in a second.
Oh man, they're bringing up Harold Miner, Isaiah Ryder. That contest, that was a good one as well. But I was just kind of referring to most recent years. Like the 90s was, an incredible time for
Baby Jordan. They anointed Harold Miner Baby Jordan. What an insult! And I'm not a Michael Jordan stan. What an insult! And not even fair. That was not fair to Harold Miner, by the way. But that's what they called him back in the day. He was called Baby Jordan. You guys are probably old enough. A lot of people not old enough to recall. But I was a Miami Heat fan, and he was on the Miami Heat. And
you guys remember D. Gordon with the from the Celtics?
Oh yeah,
you guys remember that one? Okay.
No. D. Gordon played for the Marlins. You're talking about D. Brown.
D. Brown. Yeah, sorry, I said D. Gordon. Sorry, D. Brown. Absolutely. Thank you for the correction, Dean. So many sports guys are in my head. That's like me calling Kenny Smith Kenny Lofton, who played for the Indians. So I get it. And I know it's the Guardians now. It was the Indians when he played. I was not trying to insult anyone. So if I did, I'm super sorry about that.
He was
just
awesome.
going with
I like
the team.
If it makes you feel any better, D. Gordon had one of the coolest, most emotional home runs ever.
After Jose Fernandez's passing.
Who threw the pitch? Come on, who threw that pitch? Come on, give it to me.
Wait. Were they playing the Kansas?
I believe the guy was in the Mets at the time. The pitcher. I remember the game.
Was it Bartolo?
It was Bartolo. There you go. Yeah, D. Gordon was first home run in 14,000 at bats or whatever it was, and that was.
He's crying, running. Oh my God! And honestly, that makes me sad because baseball season is coming up in March, so we're still
93 days away, I believe. I saw a tweet. 93 or 91.
But outside of that, Jose Fernandez, man, so bad. The guy was probably on his way to being probably one of the greatest pitchers in Marlins history. If he stayed, he may have been traded by now. Somebody, he may have been with the Dodgers or something. We don't know. But he was amazing, man.
He was Scherzer Verlander level for my money.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This guy's hitting 10, 12 strikeouts. Is this the actual Bartolo Colon home run? Is that?
Yeah, so producer Steve, who's a Mets fan, of course, is showing out Bart Colon's home run.
Producer Steve, that's nothing near what we're talking about right now.
That was pretty emotional too, though, to be fair.
It took Bartolo 30 minutes to get around the bases.
Yeah, take the over on whatever the time is.
Roth, I know you got the hey guys, get out of my way face.
No, this is good stuff.
Hey Roth, the people want to know. They're asking. Some nights you play DFS, some nights you don't. Your boy is Luka. Luka was 5% home last night, very unowned. Did you build a lineup last night? And if you did, you better have played Luka. From the looks in your face, if you're a bad poker player, it looks like you did not play Luka.
Yeah, no. If I play DFS, all I do is stack the Mavs game. I stack Luka and whoever they're against. And I did not play last night, so I would have won all the money in the universe, and instead I won $0.
Yeah. Did you play Luka?
Let me say this. MT Red Sox 16. I think he brings up a valid point here. Do you feel like Steve Francis would win another contest if he wasn't going against Vince Carter? The answer is yes. If he doesn't face Vince Carter, he probably gets another slam dunk championship. But Vince, man, my gosh.
No, because he loses to Tracy McGrady then.
I don't know.
T-Mac put up one of the best dunk contest performance ever. We just forget about it because that was Vince's 2000 year.
True story.
Was T-Mac wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey at the time?
I don't know, man.
Sure was.
T-Mac? Yeah. No surprise.
So here's the deal. When you got Vince and Tracy there, and Vince is going I think people just, it was like, all right, this is Vince's show. But when it's a little bit more even, guys start to pull a few rabbits out of the hat.
By the way, you mentioned Kenny Smith. He won with a ball. He bounced the ball between his legs, turned around and dunked it. And the evolution of the dunk contest, ridiculous. Google that one, kids.
No, Dean. See, I'm gonna do you like Shannon Sharp did Skip Bayless. I'm not gonna let you talk about these coaches like that.
I don't care that you're in the Hall of Fame.
I'm not gonna let you disrespect these coaches. Okay, I'm not. No, you're not doing it. Let me finish. So that's Shannon Sharp from Undisputed. If you missed that one,
no,
just
we
go
got
listen
it.
to
Yeah,
it.
no, you didn't have to tell us. That was good. We got it.
Really good stuff. Dean, he didn't just bounce it between his legs and go and grab it. He bounced it between his legs. It hit the backboard, and then he dumped it backwards. So
yeah,
Dean, it's harder than it looks. Okay,
producer Steve, get that clip to show the people. Show them how bad that the winning dunk was, like in 1997.
It was. Dean, that's so much harder than it looks. And I'm not saying the dunks haven't evolved and gotten better. I'm saying don't diminish the Kenny Smith dunk because it was like late 80s, early 90s. Like, it's still a tough dunk. You haven't seen anyone else do it, I don't think. Nobody else
would lose. You wouldn't advance.
You could do that. You could
zero.
Okay.
All right, get off the show. You guys had an hour and a half to do that.
30 minutes.
All right.
We'll have this discussion later.
I'll get on your podcast and we'll argue about it for a half hour. How about that? There you go.
I'm recording tonight. You want to come on tonight? It's me and Dre, by the way. Food for Thoughts, recording a day late because Luch is out of town. If you want to come on, Dean, you're welcome. We can talk about a dunk contest during a football podcast.
Will, my wife's out of town right now, so hit me up. I got nothing to do.
Okay.
All right. Well, myself and Will, we're going to make way for the Fanduel sponsor, Crunch Time. It's Kevin Roth, Keith, it's TJ. Lots of takes. Here they come. It's starting now. Roth, take it over.
Appreciate it, guys. Welcome to it. This is indeed Crunch Time. Oh, thank God. I thought they'd never leave. Whew. No, excellent stuff, as always, by the flagship program and Dino and the crew, as always. Good stuff. Let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Crunch Time. It is sponsored by Fanduel. Thrilled to be joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got one. It is Keith Eyster, a.k.a. the Iceman in the house. What up, Ice?
Not much, man. There's some stuff we're still waiting on. News is breaking as we're jumping on the show here. We've got Trae Young officially out. That was a big one we were kind of expecting. But yeah, Luka last night was freaking amazing. And I was on the show saying how much that Jalen Brunson news mattered, and then we got it. So my Luka lineup also contained Quickly and Randall. Unfortunately, to make that work, I had Lou Dort, who absolutely busted, and I had to squeeze in Alex Len rather than Dwayne Washington. So did not quite get there, but it was a good sweat for me for
I'm sure it was close. I'm sure it was still a profitable night, but yeah, you almost had the nuts there. We got TJ as well. I have no idea, TJ, if you're coming with cash plays, GPP plays, all the plays, but happy to have you on the show, man.
I'm ready to get after it. I'll take whatever Keith doesn't want. Are you feeling in a tournament mood, Keith? You feel in the cash game mood? I'll cover whatever you don't want today.
I kind of assumed I would do the cash and you do the tournaments, but I'm up for either one.
Perfect. Let's hop to it. I'm good with that.
Okay, that works for me. Dean, by the way, put the Kenny Smith dunk in the YouTube, so I do actually want to see that because I think I've seen someone recreate it. I think it was recreated in the slam dunk contest, and it did get made fun of for being like, meh. Not all that great. But okay, let's get to it here.
It's crazy, that Dean can put YouTube links in links in the YouTube chat, but can't get people hitting the like button. Got almost 400 people watching. Dean, we got to get those likes up. We're 11 away from 100. Let's get that up there.
Let's try giving the people some content. They haven't had content in 12 minutes, so let's give them some content and then ask for likes. Let's kind of dig into this slate here. Ice, why don't you give me an overview of this slate? You said we're waiting for some news, and then just dive right into a FanDuel cash build for me, if you don't mind.
Sounds like a good plan. So we have gotten quite a bit of news already. Bradley Beal out for Washington. Drew Holiday out for Milwaukee. One of the bigger items that dropped today. Klay Thompson out for the Warriors, along with several other guys listed questionable, and Steph and Wiggins already out as well, so might have serious value for Golden State there. LeBron was questionable earlier. He's in. Jim and Bam Adebayo were both questionable earlier. Both are in. Just got the Trae Young news dropped, so elevate DeJounte Murray. Big stuff we're still waiting on, I would say, is Sabonis later on in the night. And then for Denver, we have Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and Bruce Brown still questionable, which could potentially open up some more value in Denver. So big one we're waiting on there.
We also just got Kyle Lowry ruled out with for personal reasons. Interesting.
All right, we'll have to break that down. I don't know that that's a huge impact. Hero is priced up, I'm pretty sure. We'll let the projections update and see how those guys fit in. But with Bam and Jimmy both back, I don't think that news impacts us for cash games anyway. I'll let TJ speak on the tournaments a little bit later. But breaking down some FanDuel cash here, we will start at the point guard position. Well, let's do some core tags here. First, Noto on core tags. We've got Giannis tagged at the moment. I agree with that. He's slightly cheaper than Jokic on FanDuel, and we don't have the Murray news yet. I think it becomes a closer conversation if Jamal Murray also gets ruled out, but I would still lean slightly to Giannis there. So Giannis is my first guy in FanDuel cash. You get a slight savings from Jokic, but clearly a decision point there, especially if Murray gets ruled out. With Trae Young out, DeJounte Murray, the other guy tagged up here, certainly agree with that. He should handle the ball for Atlanta and get all the minutes he can handle, as they're missing several other pieces. All right, and then on to some point guards here. Let me just switch my screen. We've got Jordan Poole. We mentioned all those guys out for Golden State. Just 7,600 on FanDuel here, a lot cheaper than he is over on DK. Certainly a guy I think you want to get in there. And then Killian Hayes for Detroit has played really well without Cade Cunningham. Just 6K. I think he's a pretty decent value option. Can certainly take a look at him. Kyrie Irving, another guy. I don't know if we can fit all three of Kyrie, Poole, and DeJounte in there. Certainly need to check that out. I would like to do that. I think all three of them are absolutely excellent plays. Kyrie in this matchup with no Trae Young on the other side has been playing great for Brooklyn and still just a little bit underpriced for what he's been doing here recently. Also have DeMar DeRozan for Chicago against that Milwaukee team that's missing Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton as well. So despite their top defensive ranking, a little bit of a depleted roster from Milwaukee today. DiVincenzo's questionable. I certainly think you could look at him at 6,100 with Golden State missing a bunch of guys. And then Javon Carter is another guy from Milwaukee, expecting him to pop into the starting lineup for Drew Holiday. Certainly in play here at the guard position.
I just want to give you a quick reminder. You are our cash guy here. I feel like that was 32 plays.
So that was point guard and shooting guard together.
Okay. All right. That's fair. All right.
Yeah. So let me break down just kind of you've got Kyrie, DeJounte, Javon Carter, Killian Hayes, and DiVincenzo. If he plays, you probably don't need to worry about him, and Jordan. Okay. But that's six for four positions.
Oh, that was unfair. I was too aggressive. You're right.
All right.
All right. That's good. All right.
And DeJounte Murray is that one guy that you got to make sure 100% is the cash game walk in your guard position.
Yep.
Okay, absolutely. Very good. All right. Let's keep this rolling.
Moving on to a couple forwards here. Pat Connaughton expected to jump into the starting lineup for Milwaukee. He's just 3,900. I think you definitely pair him with Giannis in your cash lineup. If you don't have room for DeRozan at the shooting guard position, you can play him at small forward. Kuminga is really interesting depending on what happens with Golden State news. So definitely keep an eye on that as well. If you have a little extra money to spend, I don't mind Zach LaVine. I hesitate to play Levine and DeRozan in the same cash lineup, but I do like both of their prices. The center position is pretty interesting here. We were talking about the Okongwu fade yesterday that worked out very well. I think he's completely fine for cash games, but he is risky. He's a guy that gets into a lot of foul trouble. So I personally prefer going down to Jock Landale or all the way up to Nikola Jokic. If you kind of fall in that 6K range and you are uncomfortable with Okongwu, I think Jalen Duren makes a perfectly fine pivot. But Okongwu and Jock Landale would be the two that I would be considering since I have Giannis and probably can't fit Jokic in.
Okay, very good stuff. Just a quick note, I have people over, so if you hear like screaming, yelling, sirens, baby screaming, dogs barking, that's probably all me. So just giving that little warning now. Okay, let's talk some GPPs here. TJ, lead us into what your game plan is over on tournaments for FanDuel.
We have a lot of really good value early in the night and then even pushing just to 8 o'clock. But we have 2 games at this 10 o'clock spot with close spreads and probably the best value of the night if it breaks a certain way. And even if it doesn't, it's still not too bad. So my 2 favorite games on the slates are going to be these 2 10 o'clock games. Now, the people I'm going to prioritize before that are a lot of the same ones that we're prioritizing in cash games. DeJounte Murray, Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're both phenomenal plays today that I'm going to try and get overweight on. Nikola Jokic is a strong play at the center position if you can get there. But one of the most interesting tournament pivots I think you can make today is if we're going to get a chalky Kyrie Irving. Yes, it's a great matchup against Brooklyn, but I mean, he's still probably going to have DeJounte Murray defense. It'd almost be better for him if Trae Young was playing. And so I think it's a great idea to, especially without Clint Capella in there, to get some Ben Simmons. He's playing phenomenal lately from a plus-minus standpoint. You look at the advanced analytics over the last month, he's been the best Brooklyn net. And so I want to get to a lot of Ben Simmons. I want to get to a lot of Kevin Durant at sub 10% ownership. I realize there's almost a 2K difference between Durant and Irving with only a 3-point projection difference. And so that's why we're getting the crazy ownership on Kyrie. But either one of these guys can go off on any game. So since it's very concentrated, I'd rather get to to Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons. And then my favorite place to look for value on this slate is going to be those 2 late games. We don't necessarily know for sure who the strong values are going to be, but we're seeing I'm going to sort on my page here, sort by some ownership, these values. We're going to get almost 50% Pat Connaughton, 30% Killian Hayes, 30% Javon Carter, Jock Landale, all of these guys getting lots and lots of ownership. But on the Golden State side, we got Jordan Kuminga, who I do like, picking up 25%. But outside of that, Poole, I still love in tournaments, picking up ownership. DiVincenzo's 30%, but questionable. If he doesn't play, that opens up somebody who I already like quite a bit for tournaments, and that's Ty Jerome. The only reason I'm not wanting to get to him in bunches is just because of how good the guard position is today. But if all of a sudden we get Draymond and Dante DiVincenzo out, Ty Jerome, Anthony Lamb, Jordan Kuminga, these are the best values on the slate. And outside of Kuminga, not that many people are going to be getting to them today. And then we still have Sabonis questionable again. I played Trey Lyles last night. That went pretty decently. I think he'd be in play again. And Malik Monk is another guy that I really like for tournament salary saving options in that game as well. Those are people we can go to if the news doesn't break our way, because we still have Jamal Murray, Bruce Brown, Aaron Jones questionable. Bones Highland might be the best play on the slate. And at this point, he's at 0.05 percent ownership. Like if Bruce Brown and Jamal Murray don't play, well, Bones is going to play 40 minutes at the point guard position today. So for me, in terms of spending up, I'm still willing to go with some of these early guys. I love DeJounte Murray and Giannis Antetokounmpo today. Kyrie Irving is great, and I think the pivots to Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant are even better. I didn't mention LeBron James still without Anthony Davis going back to Miami. Not necessarily revenge, but LeBron likes to show out in those situations. So lots of great tournament options, and I think the way you differentiate today is with value, and you get them in the late games.
Okay, very good. I like it. Quick question from CF. Says, is this Dwayne Washington fella in play again? ? I am a fish, period. Is the exact quote. Any interest from either of you in Dwayne Washington?
Definitely not for cash. He did most of his damage in garbage time. It was a blowout. That was, like we said, you were begging for 20 fantasy points, and he went out and he dropped 40 something. Just an absolute outlier performance. You got the blowout, you got the extra run. Like Chris Paul got hurt as well, left the game for a little while. Just the absolute nut run out for Dwayne Washington.
Okay. TJ, any interest in running him out for a tournament or two?
If I was running a lot of lineups, he'd definitely be in my pool just because, like it was lucky. It is kind of a fishy play, but I mean, we see if he gets a little bit of extended run, what the ceiling is, and he's still $3,700 on FanDuel. So like the difference is like yesterday I was thinking like, this is in 32 on DraftKings. Yesterday I was thinking, this is a horrible play because he was projecting for so much ownership, and I didn't actually see what he ended up coming in at. But today he's projected for less than 1% on FanDuel and 5% on DraftKings. So just because of that, I would definitely include him in my tournament pool.
Okay,
he does get insane usage. I will say that. So if he does get any additional run, like he is in play for tournaments.
Right. There are some guys who.
I don't like Xing out players that no matter how risky and volatile they are, they can 10X. If they can do that, well, like what if Chris Paul doesn't play heavy minutes today? What if like something happens to Damian Lee? Then Dwayne Washington's going to get big minutes. And since he can break a slate, I wouldn't want to X him out.
Right. There are a lot of guys who we plug into our lineups hoping for 20 that in no way, shape, or form can ever get 40 fantasy points. They're just not that dude. And he does have that upside. So that's a good note. Okay, let's kick things over to DK here. And Ice, if you wouldn't mind just like kind of pressing the reset button and walking us back through a DK build from top to bottom.
Yeah, a lot of similar stuff. Same tags over here with Giannis and DeJounte Murray. The Giannis Jokic conversation is a little closer on DK. They're closer in salary, number one. And number two, you can play more than one center on DK as well. So I certainly would not fault anyone if they wanted to go to Jokic over Giannis. I do prefer Giannis. I think this is a fantastic spot for him. Obviously, we know Drew and Middleton already out. So his situation is going to be fantastic no matter what. Jokic still has a couple of questionable guys. If everyone ends up playing, I certainly prefer Giannis. And then DeJounte Murray, same thing. No Trae Young, just a phenomenal spot for him against Brooklyn. Will be handling the ball a lot more. Doesn't have like Trae Young vacating a ton of usage, obviously. Other guard plays we're considering here. Kyrie again is in the conversation, 8,400. Javon Carter is only 3,500 on DK, so an even better price tag than what we saw on FanDuel. Should be starting again for Drew against Chicago, which is a great matchup. Certainly prefer him over somebody like Alec Burks for Detroit. Just feel much more comfortable about Javon Carter's minutes. Killian Hayes also cheap over here on DK. Can certainly go that route as well. Grayson Allen, if you need two cheapies, I think I would go Grayson Allen over Javon Carter. Or I'm sorry, not over Javon Carter. Javon Carter first. Grayson Allen over Alec Burks. Let's see here. Pat Connaughton also is in that conversation, 4K, and I would have Connaughton ahead of Grayson Allen. So the Bucks, I would rank them Carter, Connaughton, Grayson Allen, just to clear that up. DiVincenzo's in play over here on DK as well. Still has that questionable tag. Definitely keep an eye out on that. A couple other forwards we are looking at here. Ben Simmons has a phenomenal price on DK, 6,200. He's been playing well lately. Certainly think you can go to him. I like Bojan Bogdanovic for the same price. That's Detroit Bogdanovic, just for any clarity. Bogdan for Atlanta is still questionable. I'm not sure if we got official news there. But Bogdanovic for Detroit, certainly in the cash game conversation. I think that will about do it. Obviously, Giannis is taking up one of those. And then for center, mentioned Jokic. If you can get up there, probably don't want to do Giannis and Jokic together. I think you want to make the decision there. It is possible with the value, but I lean more balanced after putting in one of those top studs. Other centers to consider, you have a Kongwu again. Like theoretically, he has the ability to smash even at this elevated price tag, but there is some risk there. I think Jalen Duren at the same price is a very similar play. Don't hate the pivot to him at all. And then DeAndre Ayton is still underpriced with no Devin Booker. They're missing a couple of other guys. You can go that route if you fall in the mid-range. And then Jock Landale is my favorite cheapie. 4K, we saw him start next to Ayton yesterday, so we're presuming, and we did get that confirmed, it'll be the same tonight.
Okay, very good. Let's talk some tournaments here on DK. TJ, what is different, if anything, there in your tournament build for DK?
So a team specifically I want to touch on more is the Atlanta Hawks, because they have a lot cheaper of price tags on DraftKings than they do FanDuel in terms of their value. So if we happen to get Bogdanovich and Jalen Johnson out, AJ Griffin, Aaron Holiday, Trent Forrest, maybe even a little Frank Kaminsky, all become potential value plays that would work really well for tournaments. And then just hammering home, it's a lot of the same stuff I like in terms of the potential Denver or the potential Golden State value that could open up here, because it's still not even that bad if it doesn't break our way. But I think in tournaments, like Keith said it, we're not going to play both Jokic and Giannis in our cash game build. We're going to pick one of them. In tournaments, I think you do both. If I plug in right now, like this is to me all good chalk. I get Giannis, I get Jokic. The one chalky play I'm going to fade is Kyrie, and I still plug in DeJounte Murray out in there. Now that leaves me $3,600 per position, $3,660 per position remaining, and I still have to fill out 5 positions. That's gross. That's not very easy to do. But when we look at $3,500 Javon Carter, $4,300 AJ Griffin, 4K Connaughton, 4K Landale, heck, even Alec Burks is projecting well at 3,8K. We just have a plethora of guys under 4K today that I think you can really make this work in tournaments and feel confident that I can play Giannis, Murray, and Jokic and fill out my lineup with players that should all play 25 minutes or over. Now, it's not just like lock and load, they're all going to drop 30 fantasy points and I win 100K, but you could with that, because all that takes is your 3 and 4K guys. If they all smash and we're all projecting them, if we look in that range, like none of those guys that I mentioned, the only one projected for out of that entire group that I mentioned projected for less than 26 minutes is Alec Burks. Everybody else was 26 or more. So like we're getting safety in minutes at cheap prices. And since if we sort by RG value, who are the top 2 plays, not just by point per dollar, not just by raw points, but like the top RG value plays on the slate, it's Jokic and Giannis by a fairly wide margin. And who's next? It's DeJounte Murray. I'm going to play all 3, and then I want to fill it in with the salary saving options. It's Roth night.
God, I love it. Yeah, I freaking love it. Obviously, I approve of that build. Okay, gentlemen, we've got roughly 8 minutes left here for some QQs. By the way, Chinatown pointing out that plethora is Canadian for shit ton. I didn't realize that, so thank you for the Canadian translation there from Chinatown. Shall we dive into some QQs, guys?
Let's do it.
Let's get it done. All right, starting off in the RG Discord. Hey, if you're not in the RG Discord, you should be. If you haven't hit the thumbs up with all this free content from 2 of the sharpest minds in the biz, what are you waiting for? It literally takes a half a second. You just go boop, and then we get likes, and then we get to keep the show free because we get a lot of likes. So make sure you're doing that.
Bogdanovich and Jalen Johnson both available to play. We still love DeJounte Murray today. It makes that Atlanta value a little questionable, other than maybe an AJ Griffin on DraftKings where he's 4,300. But I think it also makes, since he was questionable, a guy like Bogdanovich without Trae Young a great tournament play, because he probably won't go as owned as he should. I also forgot to mention John Collins on DraftKings, who is just one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate.
Very good. Okay.
Real quick, I think Atlanta Bogdan is in play for cash as well. 6,200 on FanDuel. He's popping like pretty hard. So he's going to play a ton off the bench more than likely, but assuming there's no minutes restriction, I think you can play him in cash if you need it.
Very good.
I think he's going to end up starting too. He started last game, and I could see him kind of being the sub in for Trae, even though it's not a position for position thing.
Okay, let's go to Prodigy's question here, and I think this might be something that we're waiting for news in order to answer it. But the question is, FanDuel single entry TJ, Javon Carter and Collins, or Bones, Highland, and Duran?
I would go with the first one.
Okay, very good. Now, weren't you saying if certain things break Bones' way, he might be the best play on the whole slate?
Yeah, I don't know how much I trust Jalen Duren. Like his price on DK 5,100, pretty nice, but like I don't think I'd have much interest in using my center spot on him on FanDuel today.
And unless you get that news in the next 7 minutes, you cannot risk Murray or Bruce Brown playing and being stuck with Bones, because you can't really play Bones unless Murray and Bruce are out.
Where I like the reason why I'd be probably getting to some Bones in tournament, even if I was playing one, if the news breaks that way, is like 75% of my lineup is going to be from those two games.
So use your 2v2 with guys outside of Detroit that aren't starting soon. So if you want to play some Bones Highland, you need your 2v2 in the back half of the slate also.
Okay, very good. Good stuff, guys. John says, DK Cash, Kyrie, or DeJounte? I think the right answer is both, but perhaps I'm wrong. Who's the must play?
Which site was that?
This was FanDuel? DK Cash, Ice.
DK. Man, it is extremely close. Like they're projected within 0.6 of each other in our projections. So I'm going to go DeJounte.
Like we got to go DeJounte.
Yeah, he's just going to have so much usage. Like it's going to be Spurs DeJounte that we're seeing, and that guy had like 60-point fantasy upside. Not that Kyrie doesn't, but he's also playing alongside Durant. DeJounte doesn't have much else to contend with.
Yeah, that is my prime rule in DFS. If it's a 2 superstar team and one of them is out, you play that other dude. So I approve. DK Cash, Okongwu, or Durant?
The projections are saying Okongwu. I lean Durant on that.
Very good. DK Cash, again, this is a 2v2 and kind of with a little nuance, so I'll hang tight. Burks and Atlanta Bogdanovich, or Kuminga and Duran. If Burks something, you save the util spot for the 2 late games for Lyles.
So he's covering not getting the news breaking the way that he wants it to. So because you have that plan set up, I like the second one.
Okay, very good.
That's the thing too with DraftKings specifically. If you're building a lineup and you don't know what to do in that utility position, even if some news doesn't go your way, you should have outs. If it's a cheap guy like Anthony Lamb, Ty Jerome, 3,500, 3,400. If we get Draymond Green and DiVincenzo out, they're great. But there's also the Trey Lyles, maybe some Denver players that open up, like maybe Zeke Naji ends up playing some big minutes, stuff like that. So if you save your utility for somebody in those late games, one of them, you should be able to find somebody that projects very well, even if it doesn't break your way.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash 2v2, Hayes and Levine, or Kyrie and P. Will?
I don't want to do P. Will. I'll go the first one there.
Okay, FanDuel Cash Hero or Poole?
Poole.
Any blowout fear from the Hawks? The Nets are the best team in the league all of a sudden, Steve-O says.
Some, yes, but I don't consider blowouts for cash games. TJ, any concern for tournaments?
Yeah, but I would, if I was playing lots of lineups, I would just build that into my pool. So if every lineup that didn't have DeJounte were Bogdanovich, maybe I'd be playing some Trent Forrest and stuff over there. Just so, AJ Griffin, hopefully they get a few more minutes. But these prices are so cheap and they're down so much usage that even if it is a blowout, there's still fantasy goodness to be scored. Plus they're at home.
Okay, all right. Chinatown says, Ice, who are you locking in for sure at the 7 o'clock at lock here in a couple of minutes to make sure you don't miss out on them at DK Cash?
7 o'clock only. I don't think there are any musts. I think Killian Hayes is in play. I think Bojan Bogdanovic, Detroit Bogdanovic is in play, and Jock Landale is certainly in play. DeAndre Ayton on DraftKings. Jalen Duren is in play as well, but I don't think any of them are musts.
Very good. A quick question here at the bottom. Is AJ Griffin a must? He's popping in DK Cash.
Let me see here.
Also, if you have that small forward position eligible to that guy from that question from a couple ago when he asked about the Kyrie and Patrick Williams one. Do the Kyrie Irving one and just play AJ Griffin in cash, or Jordan Kuminga if it's a small forward instead of a power forward.
Okay, all right.
AJ Griffin's 4,300, certainly in play. All of the Bucks guys are cheaper. We talked about Alex Burks. I think there's some cheaper options. I don't think he's a must. He's certainly in play.
Okay, very good. DK Cash, right back at you, Ice. Landell and Collins or Duran and Griffin?
I'll go Landell Collins there.
FanDuel GPP, your favorite low-owned play. Was your favorite play in general was what, going both stars, or was that just a DK thing?
That was a DK thing. So my favorite kind of low-owned stud on this slate, I think, would be Kevin Durant. And then my favorite low-owned value would be going to this Golden State side. And I think if Draymond Green is out for this one, Anthony Lamb is going to be an absolute smash value today.
Very good. DK Cash, Kuminga Collins or Griffin Reed?
Reed are we talking about here?
Nas, so I think it's got to probably
be. You can't play Nas Reed.
No.
So got to be the first one.
All right. FanDuel Cash, Hero or Pool straight up? I think this was already asked and you said Pool, right?
Yes, it's Pool.
Yeah. Pool, this is FanDuel single entry TJ. Pool and DeRozan or Kyrie and Hero?
Pool and DeRozan.
Very good. Caught up on that question. Let's see if there's anything in the YouTube chat. Pool or DeJounte Murray? Colin says we'll call it Cash, but I don't know.
Yeah, DeJounte on that one.
Yeah. FanDuel Cash, AJ, Kyrie, or Bogdan and Simmons?
Bogdan and Simmons.
Very good. Coming up here on the lock. Carter or Washington, says Anthony.
Carter.
Okay, very good. Hey, we hit the lock, but before you go, important news. Make sure you sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook if you're in a legal sports betting state. Take advantage of their bonus offer. It is exclusive to this week. You bet $5, you get $125 in free bets, and then you take that money. You go to scoresandodds.com, which is all your RotoGrinders pros, giving you the best betting tips that you've got. You put it on whatever TJ or Ice says, and then you profit. That's the move. TJ, are you involved in Scores and Odds, or did I make that up?
You made it up, but I'm hoping to somewhat in the near future. The reason I never really got involved is just because there's not legal sports betting in Canada. But I've been reaching out because there's quite a few different things that are still relevant. Like I have access to prop betting, so I can do prize picks and all the things like that. And then there's also something called Sports Select here, where it's like the government run sports betting. And like, so it's the lines don't change. They're just on pieces of paper that are kind of printed out on all the gas stations throughout the day, and you go make your parlays there. And so wow. I was
have to imagine there's a huge edge in that if they can't change the lines.
And there's a huge market. Like they make it, it's like, so that's why like it's been taking so long for sports betting to get legalized here. And that's why DFS is tax free, is just because it's not considered like the same thing. Whereas this is like through the government, kind of like a 50-50 type scenario, almost like all the tax goes straight there. But like, yeah, the lines are good, and it's like very prevalent in Canada. So if there is even like a market for that, I'd be down to start doing some content for my fellow Canadians.
Okay. All right. We'll reach out to Meansy and Dan Bach and try to make that happen. Ice, you are heavily involved in Scores and Odds, correct?
I am, yes. Haven't been as involved recently since I've been on the projections team, but trying to get some time freed up. A lot on my plate right now, but yes, I definitely do some work over there.
I get that. That's also where I put all my weather bets, which just smash NFL weather, but I just smash them. So make sure you're signed up for scoresandodds.com. Guys, with that, as I mentioned, I've got company. They're cooking dinner. It smells really good. So I am going to bounce on out of here for Ice, for TJ, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.